Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. With the formal business now taken care of, we'd like to take a few moments to review what's been a great start to fiscal 2019, as well as a look ahead to what we believe will be a hugely significant year for theScore. So let me start out by saying, yes, it is true. Sports betting is coming to theScore. Come on, come on. That is freaking amazing. Last month, we made history by becoming the first media company in North America to announce plans for the launch of a mobile sportsbook in the U.S. Now, subject to receiving all those little pisky licensing requirements from the powers that be, we will be debuting our sports betting platform in mid-2019 in New Jersey, thanks to our market access partnership with a great guy, Dennis Drazen of Darby Developments, who's the operator of Monmouth Park Racetrack. Now, let me just step back for a second and talk a little bit about how this happened and why this happened. And let me start out by saying, if any of you guys know the history of theScore, and more particularly, if any of you guys know the history of Benjie and I, you can't be surprised that we're getting into sports betting. It's always been our belief when we created the TV network back in the mid-90s to have an open and authentic approach to sports and how people engage around sports. And the network, I'm not going to bore you, but you remember it had that little ticker on the bottom when we first launched. It never went away. That little ticker had odds on it. Nobody else was doing it at the time, and that ticker never went away. Our on-air hosts, who didn't look like shirt and tie guys or the normal stiffs that are on the other sports TV networks, were guys like you went to the bar with when drinking. And when some referee missed a call like he did last weekend, or 2 weekends ago when a ball went doink doink off of the, and it really didn't matter to the game, but it certainly mattered to the spread. You know, the other networks would go, oh, that's interesting. Our guys were pulling their hair out because they probably lost a $100 bet on the game. And that was kind of the approach that we took to sports. It's always been a part of the DNA of theScore. And not that we were doing anything improper. You know, when poker came out, we tried to get involved with scorepoker.com. When DFS came out, we did a little bit in daily fantasy. And then when the rules changed, we backed away. And it was always our hope and always our belief that at some point in the future, the regulators would take a look at this betting market, this natural extension of what people do when how they consume sports, and change the laws. And what happened? In May of last year, the Supreme Court in the United States decided to repeal PASPA. And what that did is it opened it up all over the U.S. for any state, if they chose to get involved, to regulate, license, and allow sports wagering in their states. Prior to that, it was only in Nevada. So that opened up the opportunity for companies who wanted to get involved to start to get involved in sports betting in those particular states where it was licensed. We seized that opportunity and signed a couple of deals, which I'll talk about, which allow us to get involved, and that's why we're getting involved in sports betting. So let's just talk a little bit about what the opportunity is and why we think we're so perfectly positioned to get involved with sports betting. As most of you know, we have the second most popular app in North America. We have over 4 million average monthly users who touch our app over 100 times, so 111 times I think we reported this month. Our users highly index with people who bet on sports, more highly than any other app and any other sports media company. We know where our users are. We know what teams they favor. We send out billions of alerts on a monthly basis. We know when they're hitting our app because we can see it. And they do it in record numbers on Sundays, Monday nights, Thursdays, during the NFL season, and throughout the whole year. So it's basically perfectly consistent, not only in the platform that we have, this amazing asset, theScore, but this whole world out there that's engaged in sports betting. And you know, our approach will be and is differentiated to how other people are getting involved in sports betting. It's our belief that as I've said, sports betting is not an isolated transaction. And that's basically how other sports apps deal with it. And there's some good ones, Bet365. There's a whole host of good sports apps internationally. And they do a very good job of it. But that's all they do. And what they're trying to do is layer content and data and engagement into their app so that people just don't go to their app, make a bet, and then come out. We already capture all that. We already do all the hard work. People love our app. They love our brand. We know that they're taking all this data, this content, and what they're doing prior to PASPA being repealed, they go and do it offshore. Now the PASPA is being repealed, for example, in New Jersey, they're probably going to other sports betting apps. So our whole philosophy will be just allow people don't force people to go anywhere else. Allow them to finish that transaction inside of our app. And it may, it's not going to be exactly inside of our app, but it'll be co-branded with our app, and it's going to be designed with the same user's interface that we have that's made our app so popular. To do this, well, I don't know what slide you're on, but I just want to talk a second about how big the opportunity is. In the context of what the market size looks like, and what's really exciting about this opportunity is this is not a new market. This market has existed for years and years. People are betting on sports, as I've indicated before, in gray markets, or in Europe, they've been doing it legitimately, and in Nevada, they've been doing it legally for years. The estimate of what this market size looks like in the next 4 to 5 years, by 2022 or 2023, could generate annual revenue. This is revenue to the people, to the operators of sports books, of $5.2 billion. Now that's just that's not what people wager. The wagering that would drive that sort of revenue is probably somewhere between $80 and $100 billion in that timeline. It's an enormous industry. And if you look at some of the numbers that are coming out of Jersey right now, because these guys have been up and operating for 3 or 4 months, I think it just, and again, this is all very regulated and very reported. So every month we will be reporting, as are the people who are already in business, what their revenue streams are and what their earnings are. So it was just reported that in the first 5 months, DraftKings, I think, achieved like $30 million worth of betting revenue. FanDuel, 15 to 20, I don't know exactly what the number was, as reported by the New Jersey regulators. Very, very exciting numbers. And in terms of how that, we don't ever guide or we don't tell people what we think we're going to do, but in looking the size of the market, we can tell you that based on the user base that we have and based on our expertise in the market and now our ability to actually get into New Jersey, we don't think we're going to take a back seat to any of the brands, and we'll be competing with the biggest and the best. So we're very excited, and that's just New Jersey in terms of the one state. And we'll talk in a minute about how it's going to open up through the rest of the U.S. So how do we execute this? I mean, okay, so we signed a couple of deals. There's really 3 pillars to getting involved in the sports betting business. One is you need access. So we talked about that, and that was the deal that we did with Monmouth Park. The second is we need great operators and great technology. For as much as we think we know about betting, and for as strong as our asset is, which we'll talk about in a second, we had to scope out the right betting technology. Now, there's lots of third parties that are selling sports betting technology coming from Europe and this. And a lot of the stuff that's coming over from Europe into North America is having certain issues because the market is different. So one of the criteria that we looked at was we wanted a US-based sports betting platform. We also wanted a platform that was going to provide operations that allowed us over time well, not immediately, to get into the business with the best in class, not only in terms of technology, but in class of personnel. We announced a while ago that we did a deal with David Wang, and originally, it's interesting, originally it was just to help us get access. Lo and behold, not only did he have access, he had a whole company behind him, and technology, US-based technology that would allow us to get in, and was putting together an amazing team of operators that would now allow us to get involved with player. I mean, this is not easy stuff. I mean, player account management, compliance, payments. There's a whole slew of stuff that they bring to the table. That through BetWorks we've now been able. So, number one, access. Number two, a great team and technology. And then number three, which is our special sauce, which is the relationship and the brand and the user base that we have in North America. And that's really the linchpin that nobody else really has. And that's why we're so confident that we're going to be able to compete, and not only compete, but win in the space. We honestly believe that over the next 5 years, we can become the leading brand in the sports betting business in the US, and maybe hopefully in Canada if the rules change. And then who knows where else we can go. Because don't forget, our app is global, and our app goes all over the world. So we're very excited. What's the next steps? That's what it looks like. There's 2 or 3 states now that are licensed. Just about, I don't know, there's probably 7 or 8, 9 that are in the process of getting their licensing regime and the regulations in place. You know, we just heard yesterday about Massachusetts is talking about it. Como in New York was talking about it. You know, it's a huge FOMO from these states, fear of missing out. And especially when New Jersey is starting to show what's possible with a regulatory regime that makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, they're not overtaxing. Some of the states have gone a little bit crazy, like Pennsylvania, with huge fees to get into the state and huge licensing fees. And just so you'll know, part of the problem is if elements of the rollout get too greedy, then what happens is you can't be a competitive type of operation within that state, and then what happens is you will continue to lose betting to offshore guys who aren't restricted like that. So New Jersey was really smart in how they went about this, and it's paying off. So, you know, we firmly believe that over the course of the next 2 to 5 years, you know, we're going to be able to get into multiple states and leverage the success that we're going to show in New Jersey all across the country, hopefully in Canada. Listen, if you know how many people live in this area and they just have to cross that little bridge and go make a bet and then come back, Canada's going to have to. I think I was just pointing to the lake. Right? Was that Lake Erie, I think? Anyway, but you get the point. The point is that you know, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So right now you can't do it in Canada, by the way, because in the criminal code, I don't remember much from law school, but I do remember that, you know, sports betting is illegal. Some people don't think that's the case. There's some arguments being made that it might not be the case. Our lawyers here are on it. We're on it. But trust me, if that opportunity, we've got a brand that's fairly well known in the U.S. Can you imagine if sports betting was legal in Canada with the brand that we have? I mean, oh my God, we just kick ass. I mean, like, you know, we're number 2 to ESPN in the States, and we're very proud of the user base that we have. In Canada, nobody touches our user base. So that would be a hugely exciting opportunity. So once we conquer North America, then we're going to go off to Europe and teach the Brits how to do a betting operation. Okay, I think that's it. Now, I haven't really talked anything about other successes that we've had in Q1, like record revenue, like actually earning some money, and some of the other great stuff that we've been doing on our social platforms in terms of the numbers and some of the accelerated growth that we've had. So I'm going to turn that over to Benjie. He's probably going to talk a little bit more about the gaming space, and obviously we'll take some questions after.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So while we've been busy working on our New Jersey opportunity, we've also been very busy on a number of product development initiatives on our core platform that, no surprise, very closely tied to our overall gaming strategy. As John talked about earlier, our app really has a powerful community of users. We have over 4 million users coming to the app 111 times a month, which is pretty amazing considering that up until this point, it's been a one-directional conversation with our users. It's been us pushing content, great content, to them. So one of the big initiatives in Q1 was to try and change that paradigm and to introduce a number of community-based features to allow our users to start to connect with each other, instead of being forced to go off platform to have that interaction, which is where they go currently. So in October, we launched a public chat feature across the matchup pages for all of our team-based sports. The matchup tab just off the box score. And since then, we've seen 2.2 million users engage around this content. Some chat, some read. And no surprise, the conversation is dominated by sports betting. Before the game, it's who are you going to pick. During the game, guys are living and dying on every play and trolling each other about plays that haven't happened yet that we haven't reported on. And we expanded that in December with the ability for users to chat privately. So whether it's creating a group of your own friends or guys who you're chatting about betting on the app to create a private chat on the app, you're able to do that as well. And to differentiate from what other chat platforms like WhatsApp or iMessage offer, we introduced a feature called Follow Together, where you can actually pick a team or an event that you want to follow. And right in your chat, you're going to see live box score updates, push alerts with news, to really create a cool differentiated experience and give users more of a reason to stay in the app. This is an area that's going to be a continued area of focus for us. We're going to be rolling out more community-based features over the course of the year, whether that's betting polls or commenting on articles, and we're really excited about the potential for this. As John mentioned earlier, users use our app for betting content and data and news, and historically they've always done that. We provide the fastest updates during the game, comprehensive box scores and whatnot. And we've always had odds and other betting information kind of interspersed throughout the offering. What we did in Q1 was we consolidated all of the betting data into a dedicated tab off the box score. So you're going to get win probabilities, real-time odds updates, injuries, weather, everything a bettor would need at a glance in a single view. We're going to be expanding that across all the other major leagues over the course of the year, and very excited about how this has started already. We've also, during the year, added a new betting editorial river and fantasy news river where users can go see all that content pulled into one spot and subscribe to alerts for that content as it's updated. This was all part of a broader plan in 2018 to enhance our content offering across both our in-app platform and our social platform. In-app, we've added more betting and fantasy editorial. We've resurrected our podcast franchises. We have about half a dozen of them now. And we also introduced a stories format, which will be familiar to lots of social media users, where we present our content in a nice, very sort of highly visual way in the app. And it's something that our users and our advertisers are starting to gravitate to. Turning to the social platform specifically, our unique approach to content has really led to an explosion in our reach. This past quarter, we reached on average 67 million users a month and set a record in November with reaching 77 million users a month. And it's not just kind of an aggregate reach number, because there are lots of platforms out there that will tell you we reach tens or hundreds of millions of users. It's actually having an audience that engages around your content. So while we're reaching 77 million people, we actually have a higher interaction rate around our content than ESPN and Bleacher Report. And one of our most notable achievements during the year centered around what we did with NBA All-Star Games. So if you're ESPN and you're Bleacher, you have full rights, you have broadcast rights and digital rights, and a 20 or 30 person crew down there collecting content. We sent 2 guys and an iPhone and produced more content and had more interaction just by approaching it differently and providing fans with kind of a different perspective than you're going to see from the big guys, and it's something that really resonated with the audience. The video formats that we started to produce and our social reach and the access that's granted us has led us to start to also experiment with some longer form video content. So back to the future with our television days. And the first piece we put out, we debuted the Score X series in the fall, and we did a 10-minute documentary, a mini documentary with Lance Stevenson. The piece was really it was really well done. It was really amazing. But what and the whole theory behind it was, Lance is just starting in LA and wanted to, has always been perceived of as a joker in the league and wanted to kind of show his bona fides as a real basketball player. And we went behind the scenes with him and did that. And that led to a moment where he was talking about the incident from 2014 where he blew in LeBron's ear during the playoffs. That got huge pickup. ESPN picked it up. All the U.S. networks picked it up. We got 80 million earned media impressions. And that's opened up conversations with other players and other teams for us to go out and start to really expand this content format for us. And we'll be adding more of this content over the coming year. Video has also been a massive part of our success in esports. Our YouTube channel is now comfortably the leader in esports video content on that platform. Last quarter, we had 40 million views, and I think over 300 million watch minutes, which was up about almost 900% over the prior year. Really providing some good traction here. And with that traction in place, we're now starting to look at how we can monetize this platform. So we've hired a VP of sales in New York who's going to be dedicated exclusively to esports and going to start to explore types of sponsorship opportunities, branded content opportunities with advertisers, both endemic and non-endemic to the esports space, who are looking to target this highly coveted audience. So the esports team has done a really fantastic job in growing the audience and creating this amazing content. And this has now started to lead to some accolades. So in November, we won the best category-specific YouTube channel at the Synopsis Awards in New York City, which was a great achievement for us. And we beat out some other big primetime brands. We beat out The Ellen Show, and we also beat out our old friends from the Basketball Jones, who are now the starters on NBA TV. So that's a great accomplishment for our esports team. And we've put together a video to show you guys a little bit about theScore Esports.
Now the start, he goes out on top, they're going to bring it down. Oh my game! Oh my God, they did it! Oh my God! Look at the move! Make for simple times to get through this. He's got to AWP.
Sometimes one man can make all the difference in the world, and during the International 2013, that man was Balba.
It's just like when someone like Kobe or Michael Jordan hits that game-winning shot. Like, you hear about how great they are, and then you see them do it, and you're at the live game, and you're just like, this is the greatest thing in the world.
Kenny Shrub didn't have your average ascent to greatness, but the French prodigy who grew up in the world of Counter-Strike has become synonymous with the game's tradition of highlight plays and even the mighty op itself. This is the story of Kenny S.
Kenny, what are you doing? You've got to be Kenny, that's a clutch!
In April, this professional streamer had more social media interactions than LeBron James, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Shaquille O'Neal, making him the most popular athlete in the world. He also makes more than $500,000 a month jumping off a virtual bus onto an island to farm, fight, loot, and dance with 99 other players in a fight to the death.
Yeah! What a beast! Let's go! Let's go!
The shortest game in professional League of Legends history is the story of a charming outlaw, unrequited love, a heartfelt memorial, and the bitter fury of a game developer scorned.
Guys, when it comes to esports or just about any other form of competition, sometimes it's not enough just to beat someone in the game. Sometimes the situation calls for a little psychological warfare, if you will.
I told you! I told you! I told you!
Air needs to take a breath. Get some water.
In Rainbow Six Siege, one such character has refused to accept this fate, and ironically, through his perceived uselessness, has risen as a wildly popular cult figure within the game's community. His name is Alexander Tachanka Sanaviev, and to many, he is the Lord.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
I think that your work has done a lot in legitimizing something that not a lot of people think is legitimate in a big scene. So shout out to theScore Esports.
But as you know, esports is 24/7, man. And when you own an org, there is no rest really. My relaxation is gameplay.
They did that. That was done really, really well. I got to give theScore credit for that one. Great job all around. That was awesome.
What in God's name is that from Sticks? Unbelievable!
I've never seen anything like it. What the hell was that?
No one has ever done that. No one has ever done that in the history of Dota.
Oh, wow. Can you say GG?
So, just to close things off, I'll take a closer look at our Q1 financials. As John said off the top, Q1 was a record quarter for us from both a revenue and an EBITDA perspective. Revenue grew to $9.5 million, up from $8.4 million in the prior year, really on the strength of great Canadian direct sales performance and a strong U.S. programmatic quarter as well. Expenses were up to $8.5 million from $7.8 last year, largely driven by increased expenses related to our U.S. sports betting business development activities. And EBITDA was $1 million, up from $500,000 in the prior period. From a balance sheet perspective, we finished with $11.7 million of cash, up from $6.3 at the end of Q4. The increase was largely driven by the $8.5 million private placement, which we completed in November to support our sports betting business development activities. As well, in December, we entered into a $5 million revolving credit facility with a Canadian bank to further strengthen our working capital position. The credit facility is available based on a percentage of our receivables. It's payable on demand and is currently undrawn. And with that, I'll turn things back over to John to wrap up.
Excellent. Thanks, Benj. Okay, so that basically is a wrap. Very, very exciting quarter. Tie a bow around all this esports stuff, too. Don't forget, there's a lot of betting on esports. Just saying. Just saying. And again, the only other comment I'll make is, obviously we're emphasizing the big opportunity right now, which is our move into sports betting. But I don't want to give people the wrong impression that this is going to become a betting app. This is not what theScore is going to become. theScore will continue to be theScore. For people who don't bet on sports, we're not going to piss them off. This is not going to be, it's transformational for our company. It's not going to be transformational for the people who love the brand and who love theScore. And, we're spending a lot of time and a lot of effort thinking about how cleverly to integrate betting into it, making it available to those who want to do it, but not at the expense of those who don't want to do it. So, I get a little carried away with my enthusiasm in terms of what this opportunity really is. It will, in my humble opinion, from a revenue standpoint and from a valuation standpoint, dwarf what we could otherwise be doing with the app. But I don't want to give you the impression that even though in the short term it's all hands on deck in terms of the work that's going to take place over the next 2, 3, 6 months to get to launch, and that this is a completely new business, and this is just part of our business, and it's really been part of our business since the day we started. Now we're just going to be able to capitalize on it. So very, very exciting times for us.